Apologies, ladies and gentlemen, for the sudden end to streaming qualifying. My PC had a blue screen of death, which is never ideal. So I can give you a quick commentary rundown at least. It was Matt Daly who took pole in the end, so it will be a Matt Daly and John Cole front row. Colin Knief fought to the end, of course, set a lap quite late on, wasn't quite able to match John Cole in the end. So it's John Cole P2, Colin Knief P3, winning list is P4, Jack Hodson P5, Rosie Oliver P6, Andrew Brammer P7, Paul Milman P8, Steve Knight P9. Rounding out the 10 cars in the field this evening, it is Guy Strawbrick in P10 there. So that's going to be our grid for this evening. Double-header weekend of Corse. A fairly busy grid, which should be good, and hopefully the PC holds out for the rest of it. So we'll catch you in a few minutes, ready for some more racing action here at Spa, the first of our double-header weekend. Back to the action, ladies and gentlemen. We were on the grid, ready to go again. We're back on the grid as well. Just over 30 seconds now until lights out. It is Matt Daly and John Cole who will be fighting out, heading into the source. Colin Knief and Will Inglis on row 2. Then we have Jack Hodson and Rosie Oliver, siblings sharing row 3. Hopefully they can share well. And then it's Andrew Rammer, Paul Milman, Steve Knight and Guy Strawbrick rounding out the order as the revs begin to rise in these LPGTM GT3s. Powerful turbocharged V6 engines and plenty of downforce. Exactly what, well, don't want the drag, but you want the downforce for Spa. But we got 6 red lights on the gantry. And we are away for race 1 here this evening. It's a good start there for Matt Daly. He's got a clear way ahead of John Cole. Colin Knief as well, also nailing the launch in this sometimes tricky launch car. Side by side, it's Colin Knief and John Cole actually making contact. There's been a big yellow flag, and I actually can't go on board with what's happened. That is someone off there. Who is that off? I can't quite make that out, unfortunately. That looks to be Steve Knight off in the background there. We're going to be 3 wide heading into Radion in just a moment. I don't have independent camera control. Yes, I'm ashamed to say. So we can't quite go on what's going on in that massive midfield action as we headed through Rouge there. We're back underway though, heading down the Kemmel Straight now. There is Matt Daly building his lead ever so slightly. It looked to be that was an incident involving Colin Knief for John Cole and Steve Knight, because John Cole has tumbled all the way down to P8 there. The back end of Guy Swarbrick's car getting very unstuck there. Was he able to catch that? No, he was not, unfortunately. Yeah, that is a... I haven't too often seen that in this car, I'm not going to lie. I usually tend to find the back end likes to stick. It could be a setup thing. It also could be my driving style thing. I do tend to like a bit of oversteer, so maybe it's just me not really noticing anything going on with the car. Now I'm going to head down into the middle sector now. Coming up on in just a moment. The corner where if you're really brave, you can make up a decent amount of time. As we've seen Jack Hodson having a look up the inside there, see if he can get past Paul Millman. He can't get past just yet, still a little bit too far back for that at the moment, but we've still got plenty of this race to go. Matt Daly, meanwhile, I should mention, is absolutely flying along. He's having a very nice race indeed in the lead of this race. There's big contact between John Cole and Jack Hodson. Guy Swarbrick involved in that as well. I think, did Guy Swarbrick lose the back end there? Wasn't quite expecting to see that, to be honest. Looks like Guy Swarbrick potentially lost the back end, maybe darting towards the inside of the track for another reason, as Jack Hodson was coming back onto the track there through no fault of his own. The car was out of control at that point, nothing that he could do. Oh dear, it's been a fairly instant-packed first lap to this race here at Spa then. Not instant-packed though, or at least relatively quiet for Matt Daly as I rebuild the entire stream. Matt Daly leading this race by 3 seconds. Will Inglis currently running in P2 with Colin Knief a little bit behind as well. It's been a good start for the top 3. Andrew Ramad Pullman, in fact the top 5 in qualifying, or those who were fighting for the top 5 in qualifying, have all had a very good start to this race, and all of the chaos has really weighed down upon those slightly further down the order. We're going to head back up the Kemmel Straight in just a moment. The fastest part of the entire circuit, actually, correct me, second fastest part of the entire circuit, or maybe fastest depending on what car you're in. Either way, it's a toss-up between Kemmel Straight and the Exit Blanchemont. Your choice. Either way, 2 very fast parts for a very fast circuit. John Cole currently setting purple sector as a case of what could have been already for him. It must be very heart-wrenching there to be running in P6 despite that pace. Still, it is good pace. He's got plenty of opportunity in this race to work his way up to the top end of the field, and if he doesn't, hey, it will be a good start for the reverse good race later on this evening. Still on board at the moment then with Will Inglis. He's under pressure now from Colin Knief. We're heading through Pouhon, exiting, and now heading into the final couple of chicanes. They have got names, of course, but I'll give Stavlo a go. But aside from that, I'm not going to pronounce the others. It would just be a recipe for disaster, and possibly the worst foreign policy decision since 2016. Going back on board with Matt Daly, 4.6 seconds. That lead now, a very impressive lead indeed. 1 minute 3.2 on that last middle sector there. So he's already posting middle sectors that are echoing the middle sectors that he was able to post in qualifying. He's absolutely flying along, is Matt Daly. Jack Hodson, unfortunately, having issues in this race. The car, pretty much a goner. He's going to be pretty much a goner in this race. Of course, still points on the card if he does bring it home, having completed enough laps, but not as many as he would have liked, that is for sure. Colin Knief was much faster on that lap, a 20.2 compared to a 21.6. He's absolutely flying along and closing that gap. In fact, there's no longer a gap. You can't really consider that a gap in racing. That is now a battle as we head into Eau Rouge in just a moment. cents per second separate. Now we get to see what the advantage is looking like down the Kemmel Straight. Straight line performance of your car, so important. You want to absolutely nail the setup as we see Matt Daly heading into that first heavy braking zone before you head into the middle sector. And there we're seeing Colin Cleeve sticking to the outside, doesn't want to waste any performance, waste any time. Seeing if he can go for the inside there. He's just going to put the pressure on Willingless and see how he responds. Very fine racecraft there from Colin Knief. But as I was saying, yeah, the setup is so important at this track. You want a setup that looks after your tyres, so isn't got too aggressive in terms of alignment or pressures. But also you want to provide enough grip for all the high-speed corners. So you do need a little bit of aggression in terms of the alignment or the downforce, but also you don't want too much downforce because you've got some massive straights here, and especially in a GT car, a big doorstop wing is really going to compromise your straight line performance. It is a very fine balance to set up a car here, and we're getting to see now, especially with that slipstream at play, how Colin has set up his car in comparison to Willingless. It will be very fine margins between these two. These two know how to set up a car well. So it will be all to play for, really. I mean, these two are very good drivers as well. I'm sure this battle won't come down to set up in the end. It's still just a very exciting element of this battle. This battle that Matt Daly, I must say, has completely checked out of. He's now 7 seconds in the lead of this race. Still set in purple sectors as well. That middle sector he's just completed was into the 102s. And there we see Colin Knief trying to hang it around the outside. Ran out of track, of course, very courteously. Dives back on track as we head through Blanchimont, now the exit of Blanchimont, and there we see it's still Willingless with the inside there. Of course, he had the outside for the left-handed part of Blanchimont. Is able to get back onto the track correctly. Does he lose a little bit of time on the exit of the final corner? No, I don't think he does. I think he's pretty much nailed that exit, actually. And this car looking strong as we start the next lap then. So 4 tenths of a second, 3 tenths of a second now separating. In fact, make that 2 tenths, make that 5 tenths, never mind. Another good corner there for Will Inglis. Certainly an impressive defence here so far. Speaking of impressive defences, I think Andrew Rammett is putting one on against Paul Milman now as we head back on to the entry of Eau Rouge in just a second. Like they were going to have a little bit of a battle for just a moment. That seems to have fizzled out at this point in time, but it certainly hasn't fizzled out the action between Colin Knief and Willingless. The advantage of the slipstream heading into the first heavy braking zone, and he was able to make it stick around the outside there. Very nice move from Colin Knief indeed into P2 then for Colin Knief. Willingless eventually had to relent the position. It certainly wasn't inevitable, I have to say. Willingless certainly made it difficult, but a good move nonetheless from Colin Knief. So now it will be a strong opportunity on an important phase of this race for two drivers in this race. It's Willingless' chance to show that he's still got the pace and can keep up with Colin Knief and potentially bring a charge to him later on, and it's also a chance for Colin Knief to show what he's made of in terms of battling against Matt Daly. Now he's been freed a little bit potentially, not that Willingless will slow him down per se, he's just no longer involved in battling. Now Colin Knief can show what he's got in terms of pace, but I think Willingless has just had him big off. He has! What a shame for Willingless. I was busy sort of complimenting, we're not going to sort of complete commentators curse, but we're halfway there. Willingless unfortunately dropping it into the gravel. Are we starting to see already 10 minutes into this race the tyres potentially wearing off a little bit? Of course 10 minutes is only 3 laps, a very long lap here at Spa. 2 minute 20, one of the longest tracks we visit on the calendar, only a few miles behind Le Mans of course. Yes, Willingless unfortunately dropping it into the gravel ever so slightly there. Leads slightly less likely now for Willingless. 19 seconds between him and Matt Daly. John Cole promoted into P3 as a result of that, and Colin Knief running along in P2 at the moment, still in the 20s. And I should mention John Cole 6 tenths faster, so it's a 2 minute 20.2 for John Cole on that previous lap, and a 2 minute 20.8 for Colin Knief. Of course, a little bit of battling to be had at the start of that lap, so here we're going to get a more representative look at the paces. Still plenty to play for at the top end of this field. And speaking of plenty to play for, let's have a look at the championship, how it's faring at this stage. We are on the 8th round, believe it or not. That's 2/3 of the way into the championship. We're now beginning to enter those final phases. It has absolutely flown by, has. this year's running, of course. It's only the first half of this year's running, I'm pleased to report, but let's have a look at how things are shaping up after the first 8 rounds, or first 7, sorry. 7.5, although we won't be talking about the points for race 1 until we get to race 2. So after the first 7 rounds, here's how things are looking in the championship, at least in terms of the basic standings. We do have drop scores as well to have a look at. So it's Colin Knief who leads the championship with 271 points to his name. Then it's John Cole with 207. It is a fairly large gap, but mathematically still possible. And then we have Matt Daly running in P3, 132 points to his name. And then Adam Matthews, 129, running in P4. Barry Clayton, P5, 108, and then we have Willingliss, 101, so it could be a good weekend for Willingliss here. Then we have Jack Hodson, 78 points ahead of Andrew Rammer by 1 point, with 77. So as it stands, Andrew Rammer will jump ahead as we head into race 2. Still all to play for between these two, of course. Then we have Andy Craker, P9, Paul Millman, P10, 45 and 44 points respectively. Steve Knight on 43 points, Rosie Oliver in P12 for 24, Rob Whitney P13 with 21, and Guy Swarbrick P14 with 12 points so far this season. Not far off the halfway stage in this race now. We're seeing John Cole slowly reeling in Colin Knief. We're about to head through the final corner. We can have a good look at what their pace is looking like now. As we don't have any speed trap data available for this race, unfortunately, it would be very useful given it is Spa. But as we cross the line there, John Cole actually sets a purple first sector on that lap. It was a 2:20.7. Colin Knief responding to that charge from behind, and of course not involved in battle on this lap. It was a 2:20.5. Seeing here, battle between Andrew Brammer and Paul Millman, of course. Closer earlier on, and still relatively close at this point. Running in P5 at the moment is Andrew Brammer. And at the top end of the field as well, it seems to be we're entering that weird phase of the race where the tyres haven't completely given up just yet, but the field load has dropped substantially and the drivers are feeling a little bit comfortable and there's no chaos at the start of the race. All of that good stuff, the stars align, so to speak, and we get some interesting lap time starting to come in now. John Cole has gone purple in the first sector once again, hunting down Colin Knief. We're going to go board with him actually as we head up towards Blanchimont in just a moment with John Cole. Let's see what his lap times are looking like. And we also have Matt Daly in the middle sector on this lap as well with a purple at 1 minute 2.8. Should mention Matt Daly, the only driver in the 2:19s in this race so far. Everyone else in the low 20s. But yes, Matt Daly setting the pace at this stage. Spa, a track he seems to be very comfortable at indeed. One thing to watch out for in this race, we're on board at the moment with Jack Hodson, who's enjoying a bit of a battle with Guy Swarbrick by the looks of things, and not on the same lap, but you can't enjoy some racing action, of course. One thing I should mention is another important aspect of, I think, what race 1 and race 2, especially going off historical precedent. Fuel loads. Drivers are going to want to make sure they've got enough fuel in the car, and if they haven't, in case you are watching along now, maybe think about lifting and coasting if you're going to be a little bit close. We've seen it all too many times in the past, where drivers are slightly underfueled for the big power-hungry circuits. It's particularly easy on a track like this, where you need quite a few kilos per lap So you used to, as a smaller track, think, oh, I'll just knock 2 kilos off the fuel load because that doesn't, you know, it doesn't cost me a lap, but I save 2 kilos and that could make that time up in the rest of the race. Whereas in this race, of course, that maybe 3 or 4 kilos might not show it as 1 lap less in the tank, but you can very easily use 3 or 4 kilos of fuel on a lap. So the driver's going to have to be careful, make sure the fuel loads are correct. I don't want to see, we've seen it far too many times, I don't want to see some good racing, some good driving ruined by poor mathematics, ladies and gentlemen. It is one of the most heart-wrenching things in the world to see. I think it was Matt Daly who last did it. An impeccable drive, and then you click back onto the leader or someone who's about to start, or someone who's leading the race about to start the final lap, and then you just see the car crawling silently, and you just know it's just one of the most painful things to see happen. There's nothing you can do about it, but you don't want to be seeing anything of that. Now on this lap, Colin Keneath looks to have had a little bit of a slower lap, because Colin Keneath, by only a couple of tenths admittedly, has had the upper hand on John Cole up until this point. But it seems to be on that lap a little bit of a mistake potentially for Colin Keneath. 3 seconds down on this lap, and John Cole has indeed closed up that gap. 1.5 seconds now to separate these 2 drivers as we get ready to head through the Eau Rouge Radion complex once again. Let's have a look and see who's going to win out in terms of slipstream there. That all-important slipstream, the straight line performance of the cars could have a major hand in this battle. 1.4 seconds the gap. There won't be much for slipstream at this point in GT cars. And it looks to be Colin Keneath is potentially losing a little bit of pace in these straight lines in comparison to, I was going to say in comparison to John Cole, but we're also seeing a bit of a gap building up in comparison to Matt Daly as well. Potentially Colin Keneath has heeded my advice and is now thinking maybe a little bit of lifting coast is in order. Or we are just seeing a difference in setup, and John Cole has reeled in ever so slightly, only slightly, 1.2 seconds, a bit of an oversteer moment involved in the battle there as well. But we are going to head on now in through the left hand of the speaker's corner, of course, and run down through one of my personal favourite parts of the track. If those who are regulars of the Formula 1 game franchise, a little tidbit for you, I once had a league race against a certain Lando Norris through this corner complex and got the race lead through Pouon there, actually, through potentially, well, I don't think it was a track limits violation, but it was an exploration, shall we say, the track limit, but just hanging it around the outside in 8th gear seemed to do the trick, and that was very scary, but it's one of the most satisfying corners, I think, one of the most satisfying corner complexes of any track anywhere really to absolutely nail. I imagine it's even more exciting in a car that you don't just need to go fully flat out in. Still on board at the moment with John Cole. He has been ever so slightly chipping away at that gap between him and Colin Keneath. We know that the question of will Colin be able to catch up to Matt has been answered. It's not going to happen in this race, of course. The reverse grid race will spice things up a little bit there. That was an aggressive, not a corner cut, it was an aggressive approach in it to the apex of the final corner there, and I think John Cole washed a little bit wide. He did. He went too deep into the first phase of the corner. That has cost him running through the final left-hander of the lap, and now he's lost a few tenths in comparison to Colin Keneath. Colin Keneath is safe for just that little bit longer in this race. Closed down. It's now only 1 second, a little bit more, depending on where we are on track between Colin Keneath and John Cole. We head into the middle part of the lap in just a moment's time. 8 laps into this race, which makes it, you feel like the race has barely gone on. It's only 8 laps. but it's just how long this circuit is. 2 minutes 20 to complete a lap. And Matt Daly now is 2:20s as well. Doesn't look like we're at the point in the race where anyone is going to be able to hit those 2:19s. Actually, where we are on track now is one of the most taxing parts, if not the most taxing part of the lap in terms of tyre temps. It's that front right that really takes a hammering. A couple of these slower corners as well can exercise, shall we say, your rears, but don't just put under too much stress. But it's that front right that's really taking the brunt of things. And then for the rest of the lap, of course, it's a high-speed corner. It's a high-speed course in a clockwise direction. So the rest of it, it's the front left getting a good hammering. So it's not particularly gentle on the front axle. Is this lap? As we see Dice Roberts there, very courteously getting out of the way of those two battling for P2. These two podium runners here. No obligation to, so of course we don't run blue flags in the AROC racing leagues. It's just a very sporting gesture of Dice Roberts. They're able to have work commitments. I've had him miss a few rounds, likewise me last round as well, so apologies for that one. But as we see 1 second separating John Cole and Colin Keneath, of course, John Cole, this is a very important, symbolically, it's a very important overtake for him. We know that a 70-foot margin at this stage in the championship is looking very favourable for Colin Keneath, but if he's able to kind of dampen that points advantage that Colin Keneath is able to take away from each race weekend, it means that those opportunities for big race wins are more likely, especially race wins where Colin Keneath might not be there. That is kind of what John Cole will be thinking about at this stage in the season. But it'll be an important overtake for him symbolically if he's able to do it, even if he's able to do so. I mean, hats off to both the drivers involved. It has been impeccable racecraft. The pressure on Colin Keneath has been fairly immense for a huge part of this race now, and both John Cole and Colin Keneath haven't put a foot wrong really in fighting this battle. Of course, we saw a little bit of an iffy lap a few laps ago from Colin Keneath. That has cost him, but it hasn't cost him everything in this race. Now it looks like Paul Milman might have cost himself everything in this race. He has indeed. He's had to dive into the pits there. Substantial damage on his car. What a shame. Paul Milman having a quietly good race up until this point. Nakamoto Rose Oliver into P6. So her point tally will build a little bit. What a shame for Paul Milman there. Let's go back and forward with the two battling for P2 here. 2 minutes to go in this race now. And we're going to be heading into the final sector. In fact, we are now in the final sector of this race. That gap now 0.8 of a second as we head through the final corner once again. Back onto that start-finish straight where it went a little bit wrong for John Cole last time. 0.6 now. A better lap this time around for John Cole actually in comparison to Colin Keneath. So doing a good job of closing that gap is John Cole now 0.7. We saw a couple of laps ago Colin Keneath's car potentially a little bit weak in the straight here. Let's see what he can do though as we head through Rouge and Radion in just a moment. 60 seconds left on the clock now, heading up through Radion as we speak. I believe these cars are flat. In fact, they are flat with our, I'm not going to say creative interpretation triangles, because everyone takes Rouge like that. Everyone takes Radion like that. Have you ever seen someone who doesn't take Radion like that? That's just how Radion is done, especially in a GT car. Heading into the first big proper braking zone of the lap then. John Cole really putting that pressure on now. This is also, of course, a game of who's looked after their tyres the best at this stage as well. John Cole pushing to catch up to Colin Keneath, but of course Colin Keneath pushing himself in order to defend. Very close courses. I get the feeling this is one of those battles where, unfortunately, I mean, I hope it does conclude. Before the end of the race. Very nice indeed, but I get a feeling that we could add another 40 minutes onto this race, and they would keep on battling. They would be pretty much stalemate, and they would be racing each other, but racing each other hard and racing each other fair as well. speeds of up to 170 miles an hour, of course. That is pretty much as fast as you'll see one of these these GTM and GT3s, mid 170s, somewhere like Las Vegas. Here as well, being another opportunity for some of the fastest speeds you can expect to see one of these cars achieve. John Cole is now past Colin Keneath. Apologies, I missed that one there, ladies and gentlemen. A bit of the back end stepping in for Colin Keneath, and that is now John Cole in the lead of this battle as Matt Daly starts the final lap of this race. A conclusion to this battle, and Will Inglis has had an issue there. Big collision with the wall as well. He's got no front wing left. Not ideal. Not ideal for Will Inglis there. He's still running in P4. Has recovered somewhat, of course. Was battling for P2 earlier on, unfortunately. That earlier incident sees him tumbling his way down a little bit. Likewise for John Cole. Actually, a good recovery overall for John there. Started high up, of course. Dropped fairly well down the order. Has been able to claw his way back up to the top there. So it hasn't been an easy fight for John Cole, but it's a fight at the moment. He stands to win. We're on board though with the man who he wanted to be fighting. He wasn't able to do just that in this race, so of course he will have the opportunity to in the reverse grid race in just a few minutes' time. So don't go anywhere before we head into some of that racing action. So here we are then. It's Matt Daly who has led from start to finish. It has been an impressive drive. Perhaps we should have expected it after an impressive performance in qualifying as well. So he builds up his points tally. It'll be interesting to see with 1/3 to go in the season, just what can he do with so few races left. But he's got so few corners left of race one here this evening. He heads round that final corner and back onto the throttle for one last time. A commanding drive for someone who is looking forward to race two, I suspect. They're weaving across the line in celebration. Matt Daly takes the checkered flag and takes race victory here at Spa for race one. Congratulations, Matt. An impressive drive there. Are we about to get victory donuts? I thought we were about to for a second then. We might get victory donuts. I hope we do. John Cole will come home in the end in P2, with Colin Keneath coming home P3 as well. That rounds out the podium for this for this race's running. Then we have Will Inglis will be classified P4 in just a moment's time. Apologies that I couldn't quite go on board with our podium sitters there as Colin Keneath very quickly dives into the pits. They're using I don't think that is steward or FIA approved, that method of getting back into the pits, but that's the one he's gone for. As we have Will Inglis crossing the line to come home P4 there. And here we have another Andrew Brammer special, really. It's a quiet but confident and strong points finish for Andrew Brammer. P5 in the end to add to his tally. And we have Rosie Oliver with some decent pace in this race. She was in the mid-20s in there with the midfield legs and capitalise on the few misfortunes of others. So he came home P6 in the end. We've got Andrew Brammer providing us with the victory donuts. Thank you very much, Andrew. And we have Steve Knight will be coming home P7. There is Guy Swarbrick P8, Paul Millman P9, Rosie Hodson P10. And I am pleased to say we've got plenty of victory donuts there. Who have we got on the victory donuts? That is Rosie Oliver and also Andrew Brammer, serving us the fine dessert snacks there. Now we'll join you in just a few minutes getting ready for race 2, the reverse race here at Spa. So back to the action, ladies and gentlemen. Just over 30 seconds to go until lights out. So here's our order for this race. It's Steve Knight and Rosie Oliver on the front row, and then we have Andrew Brammer and Will Inglis on the second, John Cole, Matt Daly on the third row, Guy Strawbrick, Paul Millman on the fourth, Jack Hodson and Colin Keneath on the fifth, I believe. That's because Colin had to disconnect from the session and rejoin, which has dropped him further down the order. So just under 30 seconds, as I say. Hopefully we'll get Colin back in time for race 2 here. Down to the source, of course, the cause of plenty of carnage. Just think back to the V8 era of Formula 1. But it's V6 turbos ready to go here with 6 red lights on the gantry, and we are away for race 2 here at Spa this evening. Now, a good start for the entire field, actually. We seem to all be set apart from... Who's that sat at the back? It's Steve Knight. It's Steve Knight. I was actually about to say it's Reeve Taylor. That's me parked in the pits. Funnily enough, that was a poor start from me. As Steve Knight continues his poor start there with a little bit of skirmish into the gravel, but it's Rosie Oliver versus Will Inglis. Will Inglis getting a fantastic launch there, putting the pressure on through Radion side by side. The back end of Rosie Oliver's car gets a little bit unhappy, and she has to back out of it there for want not of, obviously didn't want to point in the wrong direction, heading up the Camel Straight. It's Rosie Oliver, though, in P2, under pressure from Matt Daly. I was about to say John Cole or Matt Daly, but I don't know if you saw in the rearview mirror then, Matt Daly, a brilliant move up the inside and into P3 for Matt Daly. Race leader, of course, race victor from race 1, already back up into P3 on lap 1 of the reverse grid race. He is fighting, and fighting well here this evening. Will Inglis leading the race, perhaps how he wanted to do in race 1, wasn't able to, of course. Now is his chance as we head into the middle sector of this lap. Matt Daly then right on the rear wing of Rosie Oliver. They're going to be side by side before we head into P1 in just a moment. And they are side by side, and it's Matt Daly with the inside as he heads up into P2 there. Brilliant move all around. The camera direction seems to be a lot more enthusiastic here in racing, which is very handy indeed. I can see more of what's actually going on track. Very useful. As we head towards the end of Sector 2 now, it is Rosie Oliver in the lead of this race. No, it is not. It's, of course, Will Inglis in the lead of this race. Matt Daly P2, Rosie Oliver running in P... In fact, no, where is Matt Daly? What has happened to Matt Daly? Oh, he's right there. Ignore me entirely. It was just... There was plenty of bloom, and the yellow on Matt Daly's car looked like the beige that's on Will Inglis and Rosie Oliver's. I can tell you that John Cole has got ahead of Rosie Oliver now, so it's Rosie Oliver in P4. Colin Keneath only just joined the session, so unfortunately for him, not how we wanted this race to go. He will be, I mean, potentially might gain a position or two based on how many lap cars we have, but it looks like he's actually disconnecting. So, an important phase in the season once again, potentially for John Cole. John Cole demonstrating that the season is about attrition as well as pace. It's Rosie Oliver running in P4, Andrew Brammer P5, Jack Hodson P6, Paul Millman P7, guys are all P8, and Steve Knight P9. The top 7 separated by 6 seconds. That is very close running indeed, ladies and gentlemen. My hats off to all of you taking part. That is impressive driving as we head through this second lap now. Dabber brakes there for Andrew Brammer by the looks of things, wants to make sure the car makes it through safely, of course. It could be a little bit disconcerting when the car is so heavy, but he has made it through. As we head now into the first heavy braking zone of the lap, it's Will Inglis and Matt Daly side by side. Matt Daly having a look around the outside, that gives him the inside, of course, to the next phase, but well defended by Will Inglis. As we head into the middle sector now, that's actually John Cole. John Cole's been brought into this mix as well, of course. Demonstrated fantastic pace in race 1 and can now bring that pace to the front fight here in race 2. The top 3 separated by half a second. The top 2 side by side as we head into the middle sector once again. Rosie Oliver, meanwhile, doing a good job of leading that midfield action, running in P4 ahead of Andy Brammer and Jack Hodson and Paul Millman as well for that matter. So that's going to be an exciting midfield battle later into this race. We head through P1 now, a little bit of lifting off happening at this phase. Of course, the cars are nice and heavy as we head back through towards the end of the middle sector once again. Are we going to see the 219s in this race? We'll find out as we come towards the end of the second lap in just a moment. Matt Daly, though, 2 tenths behind Will Inglis. John Cole See how many times I'll do that again this evening. Only a few tenths behind there. Matt Daly losing out through the middle sector. It was a bit of a scruffy middle sector by his standards. We know he can lap in the 102s. He was in the 104s that time round. And that is Jack Hudson getting ahead of Andrew Brammer in the midfield. But it's going to be Willingless and Matt Daly side by side. John Cole could capitalise here as well as we head through Blanchimont. It's going to be just a couple of corners to go on this lap. But who's going to come out on the top? It's going to be John Cole having a look around the outside. Can he make the move stick? He can't. He's after the dive back behind Matt Daly once again. And there is Willingless with a fairly impressive launch after the final corner there. I must say, has gained a bit of time as a result of that, so well done for that one, sir. And it's going to be side by side now, John Cole and Matt Daly. Matt Daly with the inside this time, but a bit of a switchback move there from John Cole, defending and defending well. Sorry, no, that was a bit of a switchback from Matt Daly. I'll try that one again. And there we have now, it's John Cole versus Matt Daly. The battle we thought we might have had in race 1, we're going to get in race 2, but at the worst timing possible for Matt Daly. He was gunning for the race lead in this one, of course. Now finds himself running in P2. Half a second down on Willingless. It was a 1 second, but Willingless seems to have had a poor run on to the Camel Straight. What is going on here? Has he had some sort of issue? Has he just had a slightly scruffy run through a Rouge and Radion? I think that was the case, and it just goes to show how nailing some of the more technical and complex parts of this circuit are so crucial and why it is such a challenge. This Spa racetrack, I think it is an endurance stronghold as well. That makes it even more impressive. Just one small mistake there has cost Willingless any form of comfort he had in this battle. This battle was once between Matt Daly and John Cole. The battle is now between Matt Daly and Willingless, and it's the battle for the lead. Who's going to come out on top here then? Matt Daly takes a tighter line, pretty much riding over that curve. You don't want to do that though. The back end of the car will kick out aggressively because we're running at such high speeds, of course. The back end will just step out at poo on it. We'll just send you absolutely into Narnia, really. So good to see that he has the drivers are taking heed and avoiding that. I don't think there's actually much benefit to really running on that curve anyway. You'd have to dart across so much. I think you'd scrub off quite a lot of time in doing so. John Cole sets a purple sector 2 there. It's a 103.7. Matt Daly on a 39.7 through sector 1 as well. We're going to be side by side though. It's Matt Daly versus Willingless. Willingless with the inside. Actually, Matt Daly has to go to the outside, actually rides over the curb across the white line there, and the back end gets a little bit unsettled as he does so. We're going to be 3 wide all of a sudden. Matt Daly, John Cole and Willingless. There's contact with all. John Cole, I think, had a look at the inside, realised that Willingless was there, so couldn't do much to avoid it at that point. Bounced off Willingless's car and into Matt Daly. Matt Daly survived it. Willingless, oh, I feel so bad there. Couldn't avoid it. Was a passenger in that one, a complete passenger. That has to hurt. That really must. I know he'll take it in his stride, but this is a lovely soul. I say that there's probably expletives and all sorts going on in the comms at the moment. But I'm gonna bank on that not being the case. But that is a great shame there. Willingless really did deserve at least a spot, at least a chance at running for this race victory. That is going to be the case, unfortunately. John Cole currently leads this race. And that is someone having an off there. That is Willingless having another off and deciding that he doesn't want to continue on. Unfortunately, that is Willingless out of the running in race 2 here. What a shame. Just goes to show that the world of motorsport is a brutal world indeed. Back on board with John Cole. 9 tenths separate him and Matt Daly. These two are now battling for the lead. That battle I thought we might have got in race 1, we are going to get in race 2. So it's John Cole and Matt Daly. Then we have Rosie Oliver and Jack Hodgson battling out for a chance at the podium. The sibling rivalry continues on. We have Andrew Brammer P5, Paul Millman P6, Guy Swarbrick P7 and Steve Knight running in P8. 8 cars remain in this race, of course, after that unfortunate race-ending incident with Willingless there. 2 tenths separate Matt Daly and John Cole. They are very close indeed. Matt Daly having a look around the outside. Dives actually into the inside for the next right-hander. A 103.2 for Matt Daly through that middle sector there. So getting close to those 102s now. No one into the 2-minute 19s just yet because there's been so much battling in this race. How could there be? pressure. It's especially after the incident a couple of laps ago. This is certainly I'm not going to say elbows out because everyone is being as respectful as possible, but it is certainly a high stakes battle, shall we say. To separate the two leaders now. It was a 2:19 on that lap actually for Matt Daly, so thank you, Matt, for responding to my call for a 2:19. We have a 2:19 there from Matt Daly. John Cole in the 2:20, so that gap has closed, but it's a good defence overall from John, keeping Matt behind, given his impressive pace. Let's have a look now at how the championship is shaping up. It's Conley Keith still leading the championship, of course, with an impressive advantage at the front end, but it has closed. In fact, apologies, it's expanded, but it will close in this race. 286 points to Conley Keith, named with John Cole on 225. And then we have Matt Daly 157, running in P3. Alan Matthews 129, Willing Bliss 113, and that will be how he stands at the end of this round. So Barry Clayton will be overtaking, of course. Barry Clayton is here this evening, but Willing Bliss had a strong opportunity to overtake Alan Matthews in the standings and won't be able to do so in this round. Then we have Andrew Rammer P7, 87 points ahead of Jack Hodson P8, 79. Steve Knight P9, 49. Paul Millman P10 with 46. Rosie Oliver P12 with 32, and then Guy Sorrell P14 with 16 points. Still John Cole leading this race, but we are going to have a few changes in the order. Maybe not in this round, but certainly in round 9 and round 10, the upcoming rounds. We are going to see the championship standing changing around a little bit. Rose Oliver will be closing in on Andy Craig, who I believe has just undergone some surgery, so is actually out of the sim. So get well soon. We hope to see you racing back soon. 0.2 of a second separate Matt Daly and John Cole now as we head into the final few corners on this lap. We've already seen an exit out of this final corner can make or break the next lap, really, because it determines how close those nearest, those behind you are. Got both drivers in the 2:19s. John Cole setting his first 2:19 of the weekend, I believe, at 2:19.4 as well. A strong 2:19, actually the fastest lap of the race so far. So nice effort from John Cole. They're strong on the defence. It's actually only being spurred on really by that pressure from behind. Jack Hodson, meanwhile, quietly having a brilliant race there, running in P3 at the moment. Likewise, Rosie Oliver. You always wonder in the reverse grid race, you start to think, well, are they going to get too mixed up in the battle? And you know that these are drivers who maybe haven't been quite comfortable with the track. That's why they've finished the previous race further down the order. But Rosie Oliver has put a strong showing in so far from the front row. Still running in P4, hasn't dropped into that midfield. So that's demonstrated good pace, and it's running in P4 as a result. Then we have Andrew Rammer in P5, Paul William in P6, Guy Swarbrick in P7, as I say. A few more points on the scoreboard for Guy, and then Steve Knight as well. An unfortunate race start for him has basically ruled any kind of enjoyable finish to this race really out. Matt Daly is 0.3 down on John Cole. As we head through the second. Side by side, actually, as we head into this middle sector. No overtaking just. Yeah, it is a track that has got a couple of overtaking opportunities, but in fact, it's got quite a few overtaking opportunities. It's just a track that is very difficult to overtake on. It really rewards a confident driver, does Spa-Francorchamps. We head now into the. We're just over 10 minutes to go in the race. We have passed the halfway stage. 0.2 still separating Matt Daly and John Cole. final corner once more. Half a second separating them. A good run for John Cole. What was Matt Daly able to do? Pretty much matched him on the exit of that final corner. Still in the 2:19s, but Matt Daly ever so slightly faster, and in fact improving and taking the new fastest lap of this race, starting the 6th lap of what is usually a 10, let's say 9 or 10 lap race. Heading down the camel straight, of course, where the setup can make or break your race, really. And John Cole, as we've seen a few times in this weekend now, seems to have a bit of a rocket ship in a straight line, it must be said. Matt Daly losing out a little bit of time, now jumping over a second in that margin, but he does claw it back in the corners, at least he usually does. Won't claw it back in that corner, the back end steps out, gravel onto the tyres, gravel onto the track, and a knock in the confidence as well. That could have been crucial for John Cole's charge towards victory in this race, and Matt Daly is going to need to work a little bit harder now to close up the gap. It's one thing to try and overtake, but now he needs to build up a pace advantage again and then overtake with tyres that will be starting to drop off now. We didn't see any fuel load mishaps in race 1. That was insane in race 2, but just another thing to consider at this point. The fuel load will be getting lighter. Don't want it to be too light, of course. .2 seconds separating these two now. A slightly slower lap, of course, for Matt Daly. It was not an ideal run heading through Marmedy there. Let's say through. It was actually on the exit, really. Like that's one of the benefits of an old school track, really. I'm sure some of the drivers this evening won't be feeling my sentiments here, but one of the benefits I always think of an old school track like this one is you don't just get miles, although we are currently looking at the one part of the lap that does have miles and miles of tarmac runoff. Modern tracks, of course, just nothing but tarmac runoff for days, and it doesn't punish any big errors there. But Spa is not one of them. Spa will punish you. Matt Daly has closed that gap up to John Cole then. Starting to wonder whether that 1.5 second margin would have been a little bit too much to try and close down, but he has done so. And elsewhere in the field, let's have a look how things are shaping up. Rosie Oliver, of course, was actually quite close in battle with Jack Hodson not too long ago. That gap has built up ever so slightly. Jack Hodson's found an extra second or so of pace, make that 2 seconds, really tipping into the 21s every now and again. Rosie still in well, quicker than race 1, actually, I should say. There's picked up from pace in comparison to race 1, was in the 23s at the moment. Two closest cars out on track are these two battling for the front, just like we had in race 1. 6 minutes to go now. Seeing a look to the outside for Matt Daly, just seeing if he can get a nose to stick anyway. He's got an outside move done there in the past. It wasn't going to work this time though. Still very close. 5 minutes to go in this race, and they are near enough side by side. Who's going to get a good run here as we head down into the sweeping right-hander of unpronounceable. I'm just going to call all these corners unpronounceable now. This has been a particularly close lap in comparison to the past few that we've had now. 4 minutes to go on the clock. Matt Daly still not able to find a way past John Cole. I think John Cole's got a good strategy, and the strategy that I would go for in this sort of race, to be honest. Although John Cole wouldn't need to do it as much as me, because John Cole actually has some driving talent. I don't. So what I would usually do in a situation like this, when we're on this sort of track, as we see Matt Daly going to have a look around the outside into the final corner. He wasn't going to make anything stick, I don't think. And oh dear! Goes too deep into the first part of the final corner. Tries to get back on track. He is able to get back on track, but the rears are a little bit toast, and he finds himself spinning around. He is back underway. He is still in P2 as well, but that has surely got to be Matt Daly's final chance at race victory here in race 2 finish. I was going to say, I think no matter what Matt Daly can do, John Cole, his car is just such a rocket ship in a straight line that there's nothing he needs to really do to keep Matt Daly behind, because he can always just run back past. Even if he is overtaken by Matt Daly, he can use the combination of the car's performance in a straight line naturally and add that to a slipstream and just get back past. It's probably the strategy that I'd go for if that is what he's gone for. Maybe sacrifice a little bit else in the car and just enjoy some straight line performance. But yeah, Matt Daly there, very unfortunate and slightly odd error there from Matt Daly. Sees him in P2 still, but a few seconds down, 2.5 minutes left on the timer. Let's have a look at what's going on between Andrew Rammer and Rosie Oliver. They are relatively close on track. Rosie ahead of Andrew. Let's have a look at their pace at the moment. Rosie is running in the 223s, Andrew in the 224s, and their best laps are fairly competitive, so Rosie seems to have the upper hand this stage. This is an old one. 1 minute to go, and we have Jack Thompson in the pits. That is a great shame. Is he able to get back out on track in time? No, he's not. It's going to be Rosie Oliver jumping into P3 and Jeremy into P4. I'm sure Rosie is pleased with that one. That'll be actually a huge benefit to her championship standing at the moment. She'll gain a huge amount of points comparatively. Jack Thompson drops out to P5. I'm not sure if that was a penalty he had to serve. something along those lines. Either way, great shame. He was running well in the podium, had that, he deserved that podium spot, and it was fairly secure. Now finds himself running in P5. Looks like John Cole's had his own issues on that previous lap, because the gap, oh no, it hasn't, ignore me, it was a small timing glitch there. The gap has remained pretty much the same at this stage. 15 seconds to go on the timer. Stephen either just having a small off his back on Corse, so timer hits 0. And John Cole, you wouldn't, if you look at any, at this stage, if you look at the screen now, it looks to be, you know, a nice traditional, you know, gonna go a couple of laps at the start and break away from the field type of race for John Cole. But I promise you, if you've only just tuned in now, it's anything but. The previous 20 minutes of this race have not been anywhere near as easy for John Cole, or for Matt Daly, or for Will Inglis, who might be watching along now. Oh dear, there was nearly a bit of a sympathy spin, because the back end on Andrew Rammer's car stepped out, and then the back end on Jack Hodgson's car stepped out even more. Speaking of sympathy, if he is watching, Inglis, commiserations. It's racing sometimes. But John Cole is on the final lap of this race. He's heading through Rouge and Rallye for one last time in Racing Editions this evening in that absolute rocket ship of car that he has. Head on to that final lap now. Rosie Oliver leading a pack of cars, all fighting for this podium. Rosie Oliver had a bit of a slower lap in comparison to some of her best this time around, and that could have cost her in this race. It could have cost her, but I suspect Andrew Brammer and Jack Hodgson are going to instead fight it out between themselves anyway and give her a bit of a break as they now battle for P4 up through Rouge and Radion. Great moves there. It's Jack Hodgson back up into P4, and he's got his sights set on that P3 that he only relinquished in the pits a few moments ago. He's fighting back for it already, and as much as I'd like to see Rosie Oliver on the podium once again, she's very deserving, a very competent sim racer as well, I'd also like to see Jack Hodgson on the podium. The siblings will be fighting over that bottom spot on the podium. We're back on board with John Cole through the middle sector at this moment. Only got Blanche Morin to think about in the final corner, of course, the final corner, which has been a bit of a flashpoint here in race 2 so far. So we'll join him in just a few moments' time. But here we are, Rosie Oliver on the defence against Jack Hodgson, heading through Pouhon here. Who's going to come out on top? We'll have to tell you in just a moment, because we're going to go on board with John Cole. Comes home in the lead of this race in the end. Could have done it in race 1, an unfortunate start meant that didn't happen. Will do it in race 2, an impressive pace in the end. Some elbows out racing and some paint trading. But it is race 2 victory for John Cole. Congratulations, an impressive drive nonetheless, and a victory to add to the tally. Important victory as well. Colin Knief DNFing from this race. So those Victory Donuts celebrating that championship fight potentially going on for just a little bit longer. Matt Daly comes home P2 in the end again. A long drawn out battle for him. Steve Knight classified P8, and there we have a fight for the podium. This is what we like to see, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to head into the final corner now. It is Rosie Oliver who leads this battle for the podium. The exit of the final corner could be very important, and I think it will be. Side by side, Rosie Oliver, Jack Hodgson. Who's going to come out on top here? Just about Rosie Oliver, really only just about there. Jack Hodgson comes home P4, Andrew Brammer P5. That's our top 5 for this race. They make contact, I'm sure. I'm sure that was all in jest there. Already seeing apologies to Will Inglis there from some of the drivers. That's great sportsmanship That's what we like to see. Rosie Oliver then coming home P3, Jack Watson P4, Andrew Wellman P5, Paul Millman P6, Guy Strawbrick will be classified P7 there, and it's just fear we've missed the victory donuts. We caught a glimpse of them at least. Oh no, we've still got some victory donuts to take part in, unfortunately. Rosie, I commend the effort, but you've parked yourself. Oh no, we can see you. Okay, never mind. There we are. Yep. I'm gonna say the camera was up the hill, and we couldn't quite. But yeah, horizons. But either way, we saw a glimpse of them. So there we have it. That brings an end to the running here at Spa, as we have Guy Strawbrick coming home P7 in the end. Brings an end to the running for round 8. Catch you next week for the single-seater action, and of course in a fortnight's time for round 9 of the touring car action. So from me, it's a good evening, and thank you very much for watching. Good night.